were hardly more than boys. Stocky little peasants out of the rice fields who gripped their AK assault rifles too tightly, like men who weren't as used to them as they should be. One of them went ahead, opened the end door, and motioned me through. The compound was deserted. Not a prisoner in sight. The gate stood wide. The watchtowers floated in the morning mist. Everything waited. And then I heard the sound of marching feet, and St. Clair came round the corner with the young Chinese officer and 2 guards. In spite of the broken jump boots, the tattered green fatigues, he still looked everything a soldier ever could be. He marched with that crisp, purposeful movement that only the regular seems to acquire. Every step meant something. It was as if the Chinese were with him, as if he were leading. He had the Indian sign on them, there was no doubt of that, which is saying something, for the Chinese do not care for the Negro overmuch. But then, he was something special, and like no man I have known before or since. He paused and looked at me searchingly, then smiled that famous St. Clair smile that made you feel you were the only damned person that mattered in the wide world. I moved to his side, and we set off together. He increased his pace, and I had to jump to it to stay level with him. We might have been back at Benning, drill on the square, and the guards had to run to keep up with us. Colonel Chen Quen's reins came as we went through the gate, in that incredible instant downpour that you only get with the monsoon. It didn't make the slightest difference to St. Clair, and he carried on at the same brisk pace, so that one of the guards had to run past to get in front of us to lead the way. In other circumstances it could have been funny, but not now. We plunged through the heavy, drenching downpour into the forest and took a path that led down towards the river a mile or more away. A couple of 100 yards further on, we entered a broad clearing that sloped steeply into the trees. There were mounds of earth all over the place. As nice a little cemetery as you could wish for, but minus the headstones, naturally. The young officer called us to a halt, his voice hard and flat through the rain. We stood and waited while he had a look round. There didn't seem much room to spare, but he obviously wasn't going to let a little thing like that worry him. He selected a spot on the far side of the clearing, found us a couple of rusting trenching shovels that looked as if they had seen plenty of service, and went and stood in the shelter of the trees with 2 of the guards and smoked cigarettes, leaving one to watch over us as we set to work. The soil was pure loam, light and easy to handle because of the rain. It lifted in great spadefuls that had me knee-deep in my own grave before I knew where I was. And St. Clair wasn't exactly helping. He worked at it as if there was a bonus at the end of the job. Those great arms of his swinging 3 spadefuls of dirt into the air for every one of mine. The rain seemed to increase in a sudden rush that drowned all hope. I was going to die. The thought rose in my throat like bile to choke on. And then it happened. The side of the trench next to me collapsed suddenly, probably because of the heavy rain, leaving a hand and part of a forearm protruding from the earth, flesh rotting from the bones. I turned away blindly, fighting for air, and lost my balance, falling flat on my face. At the same moment, the other wall of the trench collapsed across me. As I struggled for life, I was aware that St. Clair had started to laugh. That deep, rich, special sound that seemed to come right up from the roots of his being. It didn't make any kind of sense at all, but I had other things to think of now.